just a matter of a learning curve to make sure that we were dealing apples to apples. The codes did give us a considerable amount of heartache. Each of us will talk about it, and I'm not the only person that looks after the project team. The team members around this table are extremely important, and it doesn't take one person. So,
in a meeting room at the headquarters of Travco Industrial Housing, the project team discusses its most ambitious venture yet: the design, manufacture, transport, installation, and operation of the PTI International 120-room hotel in the heart of Siberia. From the decision to proceed to completion, the project took less than a year. Some said it could never be done.
And we're still on. And today we're still on backup power.
Like, we knew it was going to be a challenge, and it was a challenge, and we're bidding a lot of other jobs into Russia right now, and we're looking at it the same way. But right now we've got a lot of experience that not too many other companies have. We sort of went through all these virgin territories on our own, and we've got a lot of experience within the PTI group now to be able to do any kind of project in Russia.
It's a hell of a learning curve, isn't it?
It was a real learning curve, and it was learning it at about 1,000 miles an hour.
А на топталочке под фонарями по вечерам тусуется народ, и этой киски порченою грями.
Nizhnevartovsk, a city of 200,000 at 60 degrees latitude, the heart of the richest and most active oil field in Russia. Thousands of kilometers from Western-style accommodation, this site would allow the PTI group a stepping stone into Russia. It was a perfect place for Alberta House. But building it and getting it over here wasn't going to be easy, even for a company with more than 15 years' experience in modular construction and field operations in the Canadian North. Back at Travco's manufacturing facility at Nisku, Alberta, the project team came together and went to work quickly.
And then the pass-through here, we should have made it a little bit, the opening a little higher, because right now it's a little too shallow.
Oh, that, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because when the waitress comes down here and puts your dishes in through the pass-through here, she's going to have to bend down in order to get it in.
A plan was put in place to build the hotel as a series of 81 modules, ship it to Vancouver, load it onto a freighter, and sail it through the Arctic to the site. With barely 8 months until freeze-up, the team worked against time.
We had to consider that there were some elements of working in that type of climate that was a little bit more peculiar than to Canada. We had to ramp the line, and so there was a lot of logistics involved in a very short time. The units had to be built, had to get to the port. There was a tight time constraint with the ship. They had to be moved so many times, and we were using slings, we were using forklifts, and so that created some particular design problems. We had to revamp a couple of units. And units that were on the road, we had to then monitor them when they got there because we caught things in design that we should have caught on the front. So, yeah, we had all that logistics to deal with.
In this case, the goal line kept moving because the parameters kept changing. And yes, it was an ongoing design criteria. And we're very fortunate in the modular building industry. We don't have to go out for bids, etc. We have everything in-house. Like on the other side of this wall here is where the manufacturing actually takes place. And up behind me here in engineering is where all of the concepts are put onto hardline disk. The drawings are made, they're sent down to the production facility, and the production foremen are also part of our project team.
While the design and construction teams were meeting the challenge, Jim Sebelak worked to secure a vessel for the transport across the Pacific Ocean. Control of the venture for security and safety, among other reasons, was essential.
We had to ensure that we did have a Russian vessel because we were going in Russian territory, and a lot of the other shipping companies weren't too excited about going into Russian territory, and there was a real lack of information on the depth of the waters, at the docks, and so forth.
Just 6 months after initial design work began, the completed modules left the Travco plant, bound for Vancouver.
Evening News with John Gibbs and Donna Friesen.
In Vancouver Harbor this morning, an unusually large piece of cargo was loaded onto a Russian freighter. Actually, it was a hotel. How do you put an entire hotel into the hold of a freighter? Piece by piece, of course.
Already furnished, the Alberta House Hotel is being loaded onto the Russian freighter Kapitan Man, room by room, bed sheets and all. Destination, Nizhnevarstok, in the heart of Siberia.
It took us 5 days to load the ship in Vancouver, and that went very well actually, because we were very well organized and we had the right equipment and we had the right crews, and it was just an excellent loading procedure.
Castoff from Vancouver came just 5 days after loading began. Next leg of the journey was underway. The route took the Captain Man with its load of Travco modules up the Pacific coast, through the Bering Strait, and across the lap of the Arctic Ocean, north of Siberia. At more than 78 degrees latitude, this water is navigable barely 2 months of the year. The Captain Man was assisted in the passage by a Russian icebreaker. 18 days later, the vessel arrived at Novi Port and the unloading onto barges began. Sebelak, Bill Fitzmaurice, and 3 PTI supervisors were there.
We felt a bit intimidated when it gets a bit stormy and the boat's moving 3 or 4 feet one way and the cranes are trying to unload these units and load them onto the barges, and the barges are going up and down in the wind and the strong waves. At times we had 6-foot waves there, which doesn't seem much maybe normally, but there it certainly did, and it was scary.
Nobody had shipped modular units going up through the Arctic, offloading in the Arctic Ocean before, and then transferring to barges and going down the Ob River. Even the transport people that we worked with in conjunction in Russia had never done anything like that. So the logistics, we were working on a day-by-day basis with them, and we were learning as we went.
The Russian crew was learning too, but not quickly enough. Hours into the unloading, a crane operator dropped one of the modules.
We were fortunate that when it did fall out from the crane slings, it fell right in the middle of the ship, just missing the housing part of it, and sat there like a torpedo. When we picked up this unit, we wanted to ensure that it wasn't going to push the other units off the ship and into the water. So we had to really plan the rescue of it, where we braced up the unit and secured it, and we took all the units from around the damaged unit away so that when we lifted up the unit and rescued it, it didn't interfere with anything else, and we were very successful in doing it.
It took 5 days around the clock to unload the Captain Man's precious cargo onto barges for the trip up the Ob River. The voyage upriver to Nizhnevarstok took 10 days. finally, arrival at Nizhnevartovsk. A crew of Canadians and Russians goes quickly to work, placing the numbered units on pilings. Just 9 days later, Alberta House is in place. The Russians, thinking a mirage has appeared before them, can't believe their eyes. But if this is a mirage, it's a darn good one, inside and out. 120 fully appointed rooms, a 75-seat restaurant, 85-seat lounge, and recreation facilities. To pull it all together, Travco and PTI had to overcome Russian bureaucracy, language barriers, and a lack of local infrastructure. Getting PTI International registered and getting a hard currency license proved to be major obstacles. And then there were the building and operating codes.
When we talk about certain components and we talk about materials, they're still using cast iron when we're into polybutyl pipes and we're into copper. And of course, when they look up in their code books, they don't have these commodities listed. So it was ongoing that we had to prove to them constantly the ratings.
Now fully operational, Alberta House is staffed by an international team. Food and supplies are delivered through an elaborate network designed and maintained by PTI personnel.
We have a warehouse in Moscow and an expat in Moscow that operates and coordinates all the food services from Europe to our warehouse and then to Alberta House or out to one of our other catering jobs for an American or Canadian oil venture. You always have to have two plans because sure as hell one falls through.
The formula for smooth operation deep inside Siberia includes some considerations most hotels don't need to worry about.
We have a large supply of extras, parts and pieces. We have a Canadian maintenance man for the hotel. He runs a staff of 4 Russians. We have a Russian electrician, a Russian plumber, a Russian carpenter, and a Russian laborer that drives our Kenworth truck also.
And the attention to customer satisfaction doesn't end there. Alberta House also features full telecommunications capabilities.
We installed a 7-meter dish, and with this dish, through the telecom system within the hotel, from any room in the hotel, you can phone anywhere in the world. But also with the dish, we can microwave into town and out to joint venture camps and have them tie right into our satellite communications. From there, we'll go to bounce up, come down into Norway, and then fiber optics into North America.
Back at home base, the team at Travco and PTI is savoring accomplishment and pondering future challenges.
It was a challenge all the way through. It was just a constant, I'd say a constant argument from time to time where we had to just keep pushing and pushing these people in order to get this project installed on time.
At each critical spot, we were hands-on managers. Even in the stevedoring of the shipping company, we had our own people that escorted the ship over, and it was strictly a top management, hands-on situation.
That was the difference.
That was the difference. Yeah.
It takes 9 hours or 9.5 hours to fly across Russia. I would say Alberta House is the best facility east of Moscow.
People probably feel like they found an oasis when they get there.
Yeah. They're usually pretty happy campers when they move in.
Oh, it's a tremendous feather in our hat, most definitely. We feel now that, you know, there is no limits. I mean, if they wanted a hotel on the moon, we would work out how to do it. I mean, you know, definitely we feel that, you know, we are we are the modular manufacturers, and by putting all this logistics together, it's it's just created such a strong knit. Like the project team we have now, we work together on whether it's a large project or a small project. That consensus works.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for making the PTI Siberia project a success.
Bill? Come on. Mark?
The PTI group of companies include Travco Industrial Housing, PTI Camp Services, HoFam Catering, Crown Camp Services, Heritage Meats, a winning team.